Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about one of the worst serial killers in the 20th century, and his name is Luis Alfredo Garavito. So Luis Alfredo Garavito is from Colombia, and he is one of the worst serial killers, but because of where he was from, there wasn't much coverage and not many people to this day know about the case. So this case happened in 1992 to 1999. And Garavito in total has killed 172 confirmed children, all male boys. It is thought though that Garavito has killed over 300 boys in total. In Colombia there is a lot more homeless children than there is adults, so this is why it was able to go on for so long without anybody noticing. So I'm going to give you guys some insight into Garavito's childhood. Garavito was the eldest of 7 children in his family, and he only attended school for 5 years, which isn't that long. It's quite common in Colombia not to get that much of an education because it's quite expensive and they can't really afford it. Garavito's father was an alcoholic and his mother was a long-term prostitute. Growing up, Garavito's father would let 2 of the neighbours come to the house to abuse and torture Garavito. Along with his father would be abusive. When his father would get drunk, he would let the mother's clients come to the house and rape Garavito for most of his childhood, which wasn't too great. I can kind of see this would add to some mental problems growing up. When Garavito was 16, he decided that he was going to leave the house, so he ran away from home. But when he ran away from home, he ran into this nice homeless man who promised him water, a hot meal and a shelter. So Garavito went with this man, and unfortunately he wasn't led to any of this. He was led to an abandoned place and he was raped by this man. The next morning Garavito went and he joined a gang, but he only went and joined this gang for protection. It was the only way you could kind of survive on the streets. So he went and they stole food and robbed families and other poor people, but maybe this was the only way to survive. So he done this, he stayed in the gang until he was able to get a job. And when he started making money and working, he had to start traveling to keep his job because work was scarce and there wasn't much work. So he did have to travel. So he kind of knew his way around Colombia, and this is how he ended up in the whole of Colombia and not just West Colombia. Through the years of Garavito traveling and finding jobs, he did meet this woman that became his long-term girlfriend. Her name was Teresa, and she had a young boy. From friends and family and everyone who knew Garavito, he seemed to be a friendly man, but easily angered. So somewhere along the way, Garavito began to kidnap and abduct and murder young boys. All of Garavito's victims were boys from 6 to 16. All of them are homeless, poor or orphaned, because this was obviously an easy target in Colombia. They were homeless, they weren't accounted for, no one was watching over them, there was no security, they were just living on the streets trying to survive the way he was growing up. But this was his target, and he took many different approaches when approaching these boys. He would go as a farmer, as a homeless man, as a priest, a teacher. Every time he switched it up quite regularly. Always someone that a child would trust. But he would never do this in like a quiet place. It was always a busy area like a park or somewhere where the children would be asking for money or trying to sell lottery tickets. He would never do it in a secluded area. So he would go to them and he would offer them gifts and money and food, and then he would walk with them to bring them to this money and food. But then he would just keep walking until these boys got tired. And once they got tired, that's when he would tie them up, rape them, torture them, and sometimes even decapitating them. Garavito would remove all the boys' clothes, so they were always found naked with their hands tied, and once the autopsies start, it was proven that there was long-term torture on every single one of the boys, and it was shown that all boys were raped with unanimous objects. It wasn't until 1997 when mass graves started to show up, and that's when a widespread investigation began. Because there wasn't just one area it was happening, it was a lot harder to find the murderer because they didn't know where to look. Colombia was a big place and they didn't have much communication, and because they were homeless people and no one actually took account for them, they didn't know where to look, who to even start with. In February of 1988, just outside of a town called Genova, there was two naked boys found on the top of a hill. A day later, there was another boy found just a few meters away from the two boys. All three were found with their necks cut, their hands tied, and bruises all over their bodies. The murder weapon was found, and a note was also found in this area. The note was to Genova's girlfriend, Teresa, and this led them to her. It had an address, everything. So she was given up and they went to her house anyway. But she had told them that she hadn't seen this man in like months, so she had no idea. But she did have a bag full of his belongings and stuff, so she gave it all to the police. And when they went through this, they found journal details of all of the killings that he had done. They found tallies, he kept note of every person that he killed, and they also found pictures of all the boys that he had murdered. Through looking, there was also bills, and this brought them to his home. When they went there, it was vacated, so that was a bust. It was kind of a dead end. He wasn't there, so they kept looking anyway. At least they had this new proof, all of these letters, all of these pictures, so they knew that these murders were from the same person. Now, at previous crime scenes, there was a few objects belonging to him found. He was quite careless in what he did. There was glasses found, but these glasses were specifically for a man from 45 to 60 years of age with a certain thing wrong with their eyes that only that specific person could have. So they were designated glasses. And he had left shoes there, he had left underwear there, and his DNA was everywhere, and he had also left liquor bottles there, but every time it was always the same liquor bottle. The shoes that they found at one of the places told them that he walked with kind of a limp because the back of the shoe had like a permanent dent in it. Whatever way they'd done it in the labs, I'm not sure how they figured that out, but they did figure that out just from his shoes. And from his shoes and everything, they found out his height and stuff like this, so they knew what they were looking for. So they continued the search anyway. Garavito was arrested on April 22nd, 1999 on attempted rape. A homeless man had spotted this man luring a young boy away on his own, and he decided to take action, and he called the authorities and told them what was happening. So the police didn't know that this was the man they were looking for, and he had just been arrested on attempted rape. They began to question him anyway, and the questioning went on for a long time, but the police weren't satisfied, and they really believed that if he hadn't been stopped, he would have murdered this boy. So they decided to give a detailed description of his killings that they read straight from his journals, and this led to him breaking down and confessing. When he confessed, he was distraught and he was crying quite a lot. A confession just wasn't enough for authorities, so what they did was they took all of the evidence that they had and decided they needed to use it and figure out how to catch this man. So they called everybody in the whole prison for an eye test because they couldn't just take Garavito for an eye test. So they took everyone, so then it was equal. But while Garavito was out of his cell, they took his DNA from his pillow. So now they had DNA and they had his eye test, and all of this was able to link him to all of the crime scenes. His DNA was all over the bodies, his DNA was all over the liquor bottles, and the eye test matched. In a total, he would have been sentenced to 1,853 years in prison. Colombia had a maximum of 40 years in prison, because Garavito cooperated with the police and helped them find bodies of children, they only gave him 22 years in prison. So because of good behaviour, Garavito is up for release this year. He's tucked away somewhere in a high security prison in Colombia, and they have him in a private cell because they're afraid that other prisoners will kill him on sight, which I don't really think is fair. I don't think he deserves to be tucked away in this private cell. Let him be in prison the way everyone else is. Whatever happens, happens. But I'm not the authorities, so I don't get a say. But just thinking about it, and the way his girlfriend had a son, a young son, and they were together for years, he never done anything to that kid. They asked, and that's why she never suspected anything, because he was so kind with her son, so loving, and he never done anything to him. Which is just crazy because you'd never know. It's kind of similar to the Ted Bundy thing, where he was dating a woman and she had a young child and he was so loving to them, but you just never know that he is out there murdering children while you're sleeping with your young son in the house that he has easy access to. I think it's just unbelievable. But I also think it's unbelievable that this man is getting out of prison this year because Colombia doesn't have the death sentence, doesn't have life in prison. Because of this case, they have changed it, so now it's 60 years maximum in prison. Still not life, still not death, nothing like that. Personally, I believe that he should stay in prison forever. They're talking at the moment and they're saying maybe they shouldn't let him out because maybe he will go straight back to doing it again. But I think, why would you even, that shouldn't even be in your head. If you think he's going to go back out and do it again, just don't let him out. He deserves to stay in there for killing probably 300 people. I just don't think he should be allowed out this year. Let me know what you think about this case. I think it's quite crazy. What blows my mind is nobody really knows about this case. It's such a low profile case for one of the biggest murderers in the 20th century. But let me know what you think anyway. I'd like to hear your opinions on the case. Did you think his childhood is to blame for all of it? Do you think he had personality disorders? Because now apparently he's this great person and he's so good in prison and he's getting out on good behaviour, and which that shouldn't even be a thing. You can't get out on good behaviour when you're in for something like that. Anyway, it boggled my mind. But let me know what you think anyway, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any other facts that I missed on this story, let me know. I'd like to hear. I've been doing some research on this story and I'll be keeping a close eye to see if he gets out of prison. I'm pretty sure there's a petition you can sign, so if I find one I will leave it in the description if you'd like to sign that. But thanks for tuning into the video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!